Not sure about you, but if you've ever been out with someone who's genuinely careful with money, not cheap per se, but actually intentional about every dollar, and they do something that makes everyone at the table go completely silent. Like asking the waiter if they can get tap water and a napkin instead of a $4 side salad. Or they would whip out a calculator at brunch to split a $23 check down to the cent, and even factor in the exact thermal energy cost of whoever sat closer to the heating vent. And you were just sat there thinking, how on earth do they make six figures? This got me thinking about how I react to money. So today, we're going to dissect the psychology behind what's actually going on here. And it might surprise you how little it's to do with the money at all. Dr. Brad Klontz, a financial psychologist, studies what he refers to as money scripts, which are unconscious beliefs about money programmed into us at a young age when we don't fully know what money is. People who are extremely careful with spending often developed what's called a money vigilance script that makes them believe a financial catastrophe is just around the corner. It's like their brain has a money alarm that goes off at the smallest sign of spending, even when it doesn't really affect them. Research studies show that this usually comes from one of two places. Either they grew up watching their parents stress over money in ways that left marks, or they've gone through their own financial trauma, like bankruptcy or witnessing a family business go down. So to tackle this, your brain subconsciously files it under "never again" in permanent marker and installs a surveillance system for the future. But where it can get tricky is that this type of behavior isn't always from scarcity in the past. Some of the most penny-conscious people you'll ever meet are those who grew up with money, and that does sound a little off until you realize their parents were most likely thrifty too, so they gained the anxiety without ever facing the real issue, kind of like developing PTSD from a war you didn't fight. You're feeling all this money anxiety in your body even though your lived experience doesn't warrant it, because your nervous system doesn't care about the logic behind it. It just knows that spending money feels dangerous in a way you can't quite articulate, so you reuse Ziploc bags until they're worn out and barely holding together anymore, or drive 11 miles just to save 9 cents per gallon, while your car burns through $3 of gas just getting there. The math may not be mathing, but the psychology sure does. There's also another kind of extreme saver, and their motivation is different. These are people who use extreme thriftiness as a form of control without realizing it, in a world that feels unpredictable. Dr. Sarah Newcomb at Morningstar studies financial behaviors, and she's found that when people feel like their lives are spinning out of control, they grab onto the one thing they can control with both hands and squeeze until their knuckles turn white. If you can't control the important things in your life, like job security, relationships, or things like whether your landlord decides to sell the building, you can control whether you buy name brand or generic aluminum foil. Finally, having one corner of your life where you make the rules matters more than the 70 cents you actually end up saving. Which is why you'll meet people who can be selective penny pinchers in the most bizarre ways. They'll refuse to pay for parking, but then drop $2,000 on a rare vinyl collection without blinking. They'll clip coupons for dish soap, but lease a luxury car. The reason for the inconsistency lies in psychology. They're being miserly in areas where it gives them that hit of control, and spending freely in areas that feed some other emotional need. Now let me mess with you a little bit. Psychologists have found that there's actually a sweet spot with money management. People who are mindful about spending and save consistently tend to report feeling more secure and content than people at either extreme. So moderate financial caution can actually improve your mental health. Except most people either can't find that middle ground, or they rocket past it and end up eating ramen by candlelight to save on electricity, despite having a healthy retirement account. The line between financially responsible and psychologically concerning is surprisingly thin. But here's the thing that'll really bake your noodle. A tendency to either extremes, spending or saving, is often two sides of the same coin. Both are efforts to cope with anxiety through money. The spender seeks emotional fulfillment with their purchases, whereas the saver seeks to build a castle of security that will protect them from unnamed disasters. So they're quite alike, but just go about it with a different approach. We should probably go into the social cost here, though, because people who pinch pennies often end up isolating themselves from others accidentally. When you're the person who never wants to go out because everything costs money, or you look so uncomfortable all the time, it's like you're at a happy hour that secretly feels like a hostage situation. People eventually stop inviting you. After that, you get lonely, it makes you more anxious, so you grip your money even tighter. So you end up in this feedback loop that your brain imagines in order to protect you from a danger that's barely there. Money is one of the top reasons couples fight, and when one person is extremely budget conscious and the other person is literally any other financial personality type, you've got conflict built into the foundation. To the thrifty person, their partner's spending feels reckless and anxiety-inducing. To the partner, the penny-pinching behavior feels controlling and joyless. Neither person is wrong, they're just operating from completely different money scripts running on autopilot. There's also this paradox where tight-fisted people often have the money to be generous, but they can't access it psychologically. They'll have significant savings while their friend is struggling, and they genuinely want to help, but the thought of giving away money triggers such intense anxiety that they just don't. Then they feel guilty, which adds another layer of psychological mess. Mental health professionals who work with money-related issues point out that compulsive saving behaviors can become just as problematic as compulsive spending when they start interfering with quality of life. When the behavior damages your relationships and prevents you from experiencing joy, that's when you've crossed from being good with money into territory that might benefit from professional help. And here's what really gets me. People who obsessively save are doing this because they want to feel secure. That's the whole point. Except the irony is that extreme financial restraint often creates the opposite of security. You're so worried about potential future problems that you can't enjoy your present life, which means you're basically living in a state of perpetual scarcity even when actual scarcity isn't the issue anymore. Your bank account says one thing, your nervous system believes another. The psychology of this behavior ultimately comes down to this. It's almost never about the money itself. It's about control, security, anxiety management, inherited trauma, or some combination of all of that mixed together in ways that made sense at some point but now have calcified into patterns that might not serve you anymore. And the tricky part is that thriftiness gets socially rewarded in ways that other money disorders don't, so careful spenders rarely get the feedback that maybe they should examine why they're behaving this way. If this made you deeply uncomfortable about your own relationship with money, great. That means something important just clicked. Subscribe if you want more of this psychological excavation work, and if you're feeling generous, ironic given the topic, hit that join button to support the channel. Would greatly appreciate it. More videos this way, same energy but with a different intriguing topic. Meet you there.